The term no-code is becoming more and more common every day. It seems like right after the no-code conference, more and more people are using the hashtag on Twitter to discuss it or making cool new things with no-code or low-code tools. There are now several resource sites, podcasts, and other web apps that are made from the no-code community. Things like Flow-Based, MyFlowmate, MakerPad, Happy Hughes, Visual Dev Podcast, so many great things. While it is amazing to see this community and this movement grow, there's still people who are confused by the term or maybe just opposed to it. In this video, I'm going to explain what I think no-code means and why it's important. Now, before I get into this, I want to preface that everything in this video is my own opinion. Also, yes, I do work for Webflow, and my thoughts are obviously going to be very biased towards it. But all of these thoughts are coming from a very empathetic place. Okay, now let's look into the history of web apps that allowed people to make websites or web pages on the internet. Back in 1994, GeoCities was launched. It was one of the first web page building tools I've ever used. With it, you can create a web page by either using a wizard or advanced mode editor. The wizard mode was just a step-by-step form that you filled out. And once you were done, just press on the submit or publish button or whatever they had back then, and bam, you had your own web page. This was basically already a no-code solution to building a web page. However, if you wanted to customize your web page a bit, you would have to go to the advanced editor and fiddle with some code. Now, I'm very thankful for that advanced mode editor because it taught me HTML. Fast forward 9 years later, when making a custom profile on MySpace was the cool thing to do, the process was still kind of the same. You fill out a form, publish it, and yay, you have your own web page, your own space on the internet. And just like GeoCities, MySpace had a way to inject custom code into your profile page. It made for some terrible designs back in the day, but it opened up the door for more people to learn things about HTML and CSS. Now, fast forward to today, 17 years later, and we have a lot of different web page builders and CMS platforms like WordPress, Wix, Shopify, Magento, etc. The crazy thing about these platforms is that the workflow is still very similar to GeoCities. You fill out a form or add data to a purchased or downloaded template and then press publish and it's live. However, if you want to customize or even start your theme of your site's design from scratch, you have to write code manually. Why is this workflow still the same after 26 years? Okay, let's go into a common scenario when working with a web design client. In this scenario, you usually need 4 people to make this website happen. You need the client, who is looking for a custom, unique website built. You need the copywriter, who's going to write all the content for the website that'll help better communicate the website's and brand's goals. You need the graphic designer, who's going to translate those thoughts, the copy, into visual cues and make it into a site design. And lastly, you need the developer, who's going to make that site come alive and make sure that it functions well. And so with those 4 people, the ideal process is taking the idea from the client, giving it to the copywriter gives all that copy to the graphic designer creates a static mock, the developer makes it real. Hooray! Launch the site. But in reality, the process is usually like this. The client and copywriter work together to create the content of the website. Then they usually hand it over to the graphic designer, incomplete. And then the graphic designer is tasked to create a wireframe and get that approved by the client. And once they go through maximum 2 rounds of revision, then it's back to the graphic designer to create a static mock. And once the static mock is created, the graphic designer gives it back to the client and says, okay, you have 2 rounds of revisions. Go ahead and approve it. Once it's approved, goes back to the graphic designer, and the graphic designer, okay, cool. Now I have to give it to the web developer. So gives it to the web developer, and then they go back and forth multiple times because there's some things that get lost in translation, like things don't actually work well. Some designs don't work well in a fully responsive website. And then later during the build, the client comes back and says, oh, hey, I have some more copy to finish out that incomplete copy. And so the copywriter and client work together to make it happen, and they send that over straight to the web developer to fit it in. And while that's happening, the web developer is like, okay, well, let me ask the graphic designer, how are we going to fit this extra copy in? So the graphic designer has to work with the web developer to make it happen, and then leave it up to the web developer to make all the animations, makes it mobile friendly, and da-da-da-da-da. Basically, everything gets very crazy towards the end, and everything is heavily reliant on the developer to make it happen before the deadline. I know this process all too well because I've lived it. The reason why this happens is because of code barriers, meaning if the graphic designer wanted to see if their designs would actually work well in a functioning website, he or she would have to rely on a developer to prototype the idea. But what if the graphic designer learned a little bit of HTML and CSS? Now, they don't have to actually code it. They just need to learn to understand the fundamentals of HTML and CSS. That way, they can empathize with the web developer. Today, when I work on a website project with my wife, a traditionally trained graphic designer, our process usually goes like this. First, Jessica creates the wireframes and gets that approved by the client. Then she creates a static mock and gets that approved by the client. Then her and I have a kickoff meeting. Then she exports all the image assets for me, then creates a Webflow project, but then she also creates the databases or Webflow collections. Then all I have to do is come in, look at the static mock, and build it. I also add in any animations or interactions to help the site come alive. After that, she QAs the work and makes all the minor design tweaks to the website on her own, which is super amazing for a web dev. Because what web dev really likes to be told by graphic designers, oh, can you nudge that 1 or 2 pixels to the left or right? Or can you make that font a little bit bigger or smaller? No, she can do it on her own. Then, if I need to add any custom code like cookies or jQuery stuff that Webflow can't do natively yet, I do it. This process really works for us, and we're having more fun building websites rather than arguing over how to make a website happen because of things getting lost in translation. To me, a true no-code app gives someone the power to build a website or a web page from scratch. No need for templates, no need for plugins, and letting that person customize it however they want, all without writing a single line of code. Furthermore, the code that the no-code app produces should be super clean. So clean that a developer can easily read it. Plus, the code would help that web page or website load quickly. This is why whenever a new no-code tool is announced, I go straight to their website and look at that source code. If that code is bloated, it's not empowering teams to work together closer to build great things on the web. It's just doing the same thing web apps have been doing since 1994. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this opinion, the no-code movement. Just leave that all in the comments below. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a future Webflow tutorial that I should cover, go ahead and leave that as well. But yeah, thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, make the web beautiful together. See ya.